So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today we're going to take a look at a setup, yes a setup, not a single build for either a Warframe or a weapon, for the new Fatal Teleport mod for Ash. Now previously, if you were running a Bladestorm Ash build, you would eventually run into a situation where some of the beefier enemies are simply too beefy for your Bladestorm. So you would Bladestorm and you would spend a hell of a long time on them rather than clearing out the room, and once you'd finish Bladestorming, there would be a bunch of enemies and they would nuke you. And that was kind of the only weakness of Ash, but that's now been fixed with Fatal Teleport, which is an augment for teleport that will make you perform a finisher on a target that you teleport to, dealing 200% extra damage, and if you manage to KO the unit, 50% of the energy cost will be refunded, which is not that big of a deal because teleport by itself is pretty cheap. So let's take a look at the builds that I'll be using in this video, and then we can talk about Fatal Teleport a little more, okay? So first of all, we have the Ash Prime build, and this is basically just a Bladestorm build with Fatal Teleport. So I'm running Steel Charge, which gives you a ton of mod capacity, and it increases damage of both Fatal Teleport because it increases melee damage, which increases finisher damage, and it also increases Bladestorm damage. Then I'm running Intensify, Transient Fortitude, and Power Drift to increase the damage of Bladestorm even more, because even though we'll be using Fatal Teleport, we still want to use Bladestorm. And then we're going to add Fatal Teleport, because without it, this wouldn't really be much of a Fatal Teleport build. Then I'm running Stretch to increase the range of both Teleport and Bladestorm, but more importantly Bladestorm, because with this, you can acquire targets further away, and Bladestorm will also affect a larger area. Then I'm using Vitality because Ash Prime has a lot of health and he also has decent armor, so with this you will have a nice bit of survivability. And I'm also running Streamline with Fleeting Expertise to cap out my power efficiency, and with this Bladestorm will only cost 25 energy, and Fatal Teleport will basically be free because it costs almost nothing. And finally, I'm using Rage because sometimes, especially if you're not running the Zenric Focus School, you will simply run out of energy, and that usually means that you're dead, because this build is really good to take against very high level units, and when you run out of energy you can't Bladestorm, you can't use Teleport, which both make you invulnerable, which is your main source of survivability. You're gonna die if you're just gonna run around. So with this, as soon as you start taking damage, you will get enough energy to do either Bladestorm or Teleport. Now, the weapon I'm using for this setup is a 0 Forma Karyst. Please don't mind that one, Forma. I made a mistake, okay? So you don't need any Forma to do this. I'm using Pointed Wind, which is a stance that just matches the polarity for a little bit more mod capacity. That's all. And I'm using Reflex Coil and Focus Energy, which give me a lot of channeling efficiency, which is really good because I'm also using Quickening. And if you have Quickening and you channel throughout an entire Bladestorm, it will actually speed up the animation as well. I'm using Fury to speed up the animation of Bladestorm even more, and Covert Lethality, so when you perform a finisher on an enemy with Teleport, it will kill them no matter what. Then I'm using Body Count to add a little bit more combo duration on Bladestorm, and Life Strike to give me more survivability through channeling. Now, the last mod slot is open because I have nothing to put in there that would help this setup, so just put whatever you want in there. Now, in my opinion, the best way of utilizing this setup is to simply run into a room, start channeling, and do one Bladestorm. This will take care of all the low tier units, and then you can start teleporting to the beefier ones and one-shotting them with Covert Lethality. And you will just repeat this over and over and over again ad infinitum, because, well, if you do a finisher on an enemy and you have Covert Lethality, they're gonna die no matter how much health or armor they have. So with this, you are unstoppable. If you're smart about this, you are unstoppable unless, and this is the problem with the augment, Teleport doesn't work. Teleport has been somewhat wonky for a very long time, and sometimes when you try to teleport to a unit, the game will simply tell you the target is obstructed even though it's not. And you will see this in a second in the video. I run up the stairs and I try to teleport to a unit, and about 3 times it tells me that the target is obstructed, and then it finally works. And that is an issue if you're trying to take down a bombard. Right here, there we go. Target obstructed, obstructed, obstructed. Boom, now I can teleport. That is an issue if you want to take down a bombard that's standing right in front of you, and you can't. Because the game's like, nope, dude. Even though this bombard is standing right in front of you, and there is nothing between you and the bombard, he is totally obstructed. And that's the one issue with this, but that will be fixed eventually. But that doesn't mean that you are never gonna die to this. You will die because of this many times. But then again, if you're smart and calm, you can just Bladestorm the enemy, which will give you a little bit of invulnerability, and chances are once you finish Bladestorming, you'll be in a position where the game will allow you to use Teleport on that enemy, if he didn't die to Bladestorm already. And another thing to be concerned about is that not all enemies can be opened up to a finisher. So sometimes you will teleport to an enemy and Ash will just stand there and get bait slapped. And finally, let's not forget that teleport can be used on multiple things, and not just enemies. You can teleport to enemies, yes, but you can also teleport to allies, hostages, cryopods, and mobile defense data terminals. So sometimes when you teleport to something, you may not kill the enemy that's standing near it. And one final thing, I have a sneaking suspicion that if you're running Carrier with the same setup that I do, which is Sweeper Prime, lot of status chance and blast damage, if Carrier manages to knock the enemy down with either an impact or a blast proc, the finisher won't go off. It never happened to me when I removed Carrier from my loadout, but it may be bugged, so sometimes the finisher won't go off, but if that's the case, it will be fixed. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that it's Carrier knocking them down. So all in all, this is an extremely damaging setup that has a lot of survivability as well, even though you can see me die over and over and over again because I was trying to use teleport as much as possible, because both Bladestorm and finishers make you invulnerable. So basically, if you're smart and teleport doesn't derp up in the wrong spot, you are basically invulnerable while shredding entire rooms filled with enemies. And that's basically it for this video. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think about this type of video? You know, instead of having one build per video, I would have an entire setup that I can review and give you my honest opinion on. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Please tell me in the comment section below this video. I thank you very much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.